Howdy colors out there, this is Nathan back with another episode of comic book coloring tips and tricks. This is going to be episode 16. Today we're doing something, again, a little bit different. You'll notice by the interface, I am in Painter. I think this is Painter 12. Hadn't worked in Painter in a while, and I just wanted to switch it up a little bit for you guys. This is a piece by Matteo Scalera, and I'll put his DeviantArt account in the description. So I was looking at my my DeviantArt page for a lot of them in my gallery. Just kind of getting a brief overview, just keeping it, just looking at the thumbnails as a whole. I was just noticing a lot of stuff I've been coloring lately was using a lot of purples and greens and lots of cool colors. So I wanted to switch it up and do something different, and also I hadn't done a Batman piece in forever, so I think it'd be something fun to do. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I went ahead and set up my line art and everything in Photoshop, so I don't think the layer system in Painter is still a little wonky. So usually I'll go ahead and set up the basics in Photoshop, then I'll import the file into Painter. What's great about Painter is that you could also save your files back out as PSDs and then open them back up in Photoshop. So what I'll do a lot of times, I'll go back and forth between the two. So I think first of all, what we'll do, I have a couple main brushes that I use, a couple markers. So here's like a thick and thin marker, no buildup. You just find it's basic markers. I see no buildup. There's a fine tip marker. There's like a gouache, a broad cover brush. For blenders, you just use like a grainy water. And then for details, I have a pen that I'll use. It's just a thick and thin pen, which I like a lot. Let me show you, first of all, what these kind of look like, and I'll show you how we'll use them. So here's one of the marker brushes. So you can get like some cool stuff, and the more you go over it, the more it's going to build up. Kind of like how a marker would be. So that's that one. Here's a thick and thin marker, which I like for really big areas. This one here I have set, so it doesn't add more color on top of it. Just kind of stays the same. Let's see the blunt tip. Again, no buildup on it, which is really, again, great for nice big areas. One thing I like about Painter is you get a lot of these like nice little effects going. Let me see if I can zoom in here. So you get like the jagged edges, and just makes it really look a lot more painterly, which I think is cool. So let's zoom back out. Let's see, the next one is our broad cover brush. So you can go light, and you can get almost like a diffused brush, but it helps blend everything nicely. And go in with this is the thick and thin pen, which I said again I'll use for details. So it has a really nice, harder you push, the darker it's going to be, and the thicker the line. So you get some really cool effects with that. And I'll use this one a lot and play with the opacity on it to get different effects. And then my brush, my blender. And it kind of has like a little bit of grain to it, so it blends really nicely. And I think that's all we'll go over for now. Painter is one of those programs where you really want to play around with it and really experiment on your own. There's nothing I'm going to show you here that's going to be just right just for you. So go through, find your own brushes, and see what works best. So we'll go ahead and clear this all out. Turn this back on. It's our line art. So you'll see I don't have any flats on this or anything. And I'm Usually when I'm in Painter, I don't like to do flats a whole lot, and I'll just work the piece more like you would a traditional painting. So first off, I'm going to go in. Oops. Let me grab my markers here. I think that's the one I like. See, I said we're going to go warm colors, but first of all, I'm going to get just a, like that color, just a greenish. You can see it's a gray, but it's more on the green side there. Opacity's good. Let me increase the size some. The one thing I prefer Photoshop over a lot is my shortcut keys. I'm not very adept with Painter, so I don't know all the shortcuts. So I'm constantly having to go over here and like size it down, my brush down and stuff like that I could do in Photoshop with just some keys, and it's a lot faster for me. But it just might be me not knowing the program as well as I should. So yeah, I'm just kind of building it up. The focus is going to be on Batman, so I'm just kind of darkening up a little bit of the areas. And I'm using a green to for the contrast. It'll look really nice when I get the warmer tones in it. So right now you just might be thinking like, what's he doing? But it'll come together. And I'm not really worried about the greens coming into the cape, because you'll remember from some other series tips and tricks how it'll have like that reflective lighting from the environment and stuff. So again, just like I would work on a regular painting, I'll go ahead and let the colors bleed over into the next, and we'll work with that. Also kind of learned that when working with markers, I mean, nothing's perfect. You're going to have colors bleeding into each other and everything, and just kind of adds to the fun of it. Just kind of throwing some, kind of starting to introduce some of the warmer colors into it, and go back to our blender. So even though it looks like, really messing it up, when I go in there with that blender and blend those colors together, it's going to look really nice. Again, it's just the background, so I'm just going to, have like a desaturated look to it. So I'm not really that concerned about it right now. I'm just kind of building it up, the color and everything right now. We'll have a little bit of red in the shadows for now. Start to introduce that some. So the tough things about doing these videos, there's a lot of times like so much preparation, and there's a good amount of times where, I mean, like this, I have no idea what the finished piece is going to look like. It could be a 10-minute video, could be an hour-long video. We're just going to keep on working it until I get to a point where I'm pretty happy with it. We'll see where it takes us. So again, just kind of indicating some of the shadows, just kind of sketching them in really loosely. Again, looks really dark, but once you start blending it, it'll look a lot nicer. And don't worry, I'll get the red in there soon. Just building up colors still. So I don't want to blend everything out. Let's keep some of these brush strokes, like you can see. Oops, let me move this over some. You see some of these brush strokes going right here, and that's what's going to help us keep that natural look. Let's go in a fine tip marker. Let's go a little bit more red now. That's pretty dark. Undo that. Let me see what that looks like when I blend it. I'm trying my best not to undo a whole lot. And again, it's just going to help keep it natural when you're working with markers. You know, what you lay down is a lot of times what you're going to be stuck with. That's not too bad. All right, I guess we can keep on going with that. I just won't use as much pressure on it. Let's see, this is going to be darker, of course. So just like I was before, just kind of sketching in some shadows and everything. Now we'll go back, do some more blending. Right now I'm seeing all this red on Batman, and even I'm starting to wonder if this is gonna come together or not. But I think we can make it work. So I'm not just gonna have the red in the shadows. I'll bring in the local color as well. This is just going to add some interest to the shadows and everything. Let's see. One thing I like about Painter as well is like this little bar up here where it's your recent brushes. It comes in handy so much. A lot of times you'll modify one of the brushes you're using, and then you kind of lose those settings if you don't save it in your preferences in Photoshop. So it's really handy. You can just always get that back. Alright, that's looking kind of cool. Oh, and for everybody saying like, oh, you just use the bracket keys for your brush like in Photoshop. It's the thing about Photoshop is like the numbers go up a lot more. So I do have to go up here because it just takes too long waiting for that brush to get bigger. So yeah, I always have to go up here and hit it instead of just the bracket keys to increase the size. It's kind of heavy up here, so I'm just going to darken some bits down here as well to kind of even out the piece. There we go. Okay. Now let me, oops, wrong palette. And a little bit more down here. Wow, that's really red. But I think we could pull it off. Let me see if I get like a watercolor brush going. Oops. Just, have all these other palettes set up that I use for different jobs. But Yeah, I hardly ever use Painter, so I'm not really sure what all I'm looking at there. I just want like a brush, maybe like a real watercolor brush. I just put like a wash. Yeah, that's looking all right. Just putting a little bit of a wash over everything. So you're seeing like that, see it dry out now. Get a brighter red in the background. One thing I always loved about the Batman animated series was that red sky. It was just so shocking, and especially Batman with his cool colors on it just really popped him out against it. Just always loved the color stylings on that show. Alright. So I think it's looking alright. Let me wait for this to catch up. The other thing about Painter is that it's so RAM intensive. You gotta have a really powerful machine, especially when you're working with the digital watercolors. Otherwise, it just really slows you down and takes forever. Let me see if I remember how to do this. Can I drop that? No. No, I cannot. If I drop this, and then drop that. Alright, there we go. Yeah, I'll just have to do it like that. That's fine. So we didn't have to worry about having a background layer on that. Now, let's go in. I'll have a, which one is it? This one, new layer. You can tell it's like I hardly ever use this program, so it's kind of a challenge, which I like. It's always makes it more interesting. Let's go in, start adding some shades to Batman here. Let's see if I can zoom in on this here. So you can see, I'm just using my pen, the thick and thin pen. Oops, zoomed in too much. So yeah, I'm on here, just adding, yeah, that might be too much. Let me go darker. I'm just kind of scribbling it in. I'm not too worried about the lighting at this point. I'm just kind of getting the colors in there. So, you know, that's blue, of course. So I want to make it interesting. I don't want to have just a gray silhouette against the red. So. We're going to leave this red showing in places, because that'll look really nice. And I'm just going, again, like we're working with natural media, you know, just with quick strokes here. And a lot of it comes from, for me anyway, it comes with working with markers. You know, if you can't think about it too much. You're not so attached to the piece. If it messes up, it messes up. You have to start over. You know, you can't dwell on it. So, yeah, just going in really quickly, and sketching it in, giving it that natural feel. Let's see, his boots now. Again, I'm just going to leave some of that red in there. Is this line actually there, or is this just... Oh, okay. It's just acting up on me. There we go. Okay, it's gone. I got a little bit of blue in here. So let's go ahead and we'll blend this out and we'll see how this looks. It's going to give us like a nice purplish color. Oh yeah, that looks cool. So we're getting that little influence of the red in it. So I love how random it feels. So now that we have that down, we could go in and start with some of the highlights on it. So we'll go a little bit more with the blue, a little bit more saturated. Still kind of a purplish color right now, which was totally fine because it's going to pop out against the red really nicely. It looks kind of scratchy at first, but once we start again doing some more blending and everything, it'll really come together. So let's check and see how that looks. And I like how this blender particularly, this is the grainy water, really makes it seem like it's on some paper, and this paint that I'm putting down is seeping right into the grain, which I think it gives it a really cool look. And again, just want to leave some of those strokes going so we can see them. Helps sell that look that we're going for. I guess while I'm doing this boring stuff, I'll go ahead and mention as well on the YouTube channel we're already over 400 subscribers, so it's amazing. You know, I was shocked when I even hit 50. You know, and we're still going. It's just, you know, really flattering, and I really appreciate all your guys' support. You know, it really means a lot to me. So yeah, it's looking pretty nice. So I'm digging that so far. Let's go ahead and continue down to the boots down here. We'll leave the side a little muddy, you know, kind of caught in the reds a little bit more. I think that looks pretty cool. Let's blend this out. This other side here. And we had a little bit on here from his boxers. Alright, so we have the blues done, and I'm pretty happy with the way that's going so far. I'll keep that on a separate layer though, so for our touch-ups, if we want to go into Photoshop I could mess around with that a little bit more. It's going to have some of the red influenced in there from when I was blending around, but that'll be okay. Alright, so we got a new layer. Let's do... I guess the next big area will be the grays. So we'll start off. We're going to keep here in these cool colors because that's really going to help them pop out against those reds. So let's see. We'll start with the legs. So again, we still have our thick and thin pen. So just kind of start working in the local color on here. Then we'll go back to our grainy water brush, our blender. We'll just kind of blend that in. I'm just going to keep on building it up a little bit at a time. Not like you would with acrylics. Just wish I was as good as blending this with acrylics as I was with this. Just never really got the hang of painting with acrylics. Let's go a little bit darker, so we can introduce this gray down here a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more. Let's see how that looks. I'm kind of stepping back. It's a little too dark, huh? Let's go ahead and we'll lighten it up a little bit. So the thing I always try to keep in mind about painting is kind of like from Bob Ross. Like, there's no such thing as a mistake. You just have happy accidents. So yeah, a lot of times just wait for it to dry a little bit and just go ahead and paint over it. But luckily we're working digitally, so we didn't have to wait for it to dry. I'm losing a little bit of that red in the shadows here, so I'm just kind of bringing that back in some. Yeah, I think that looks good. It's not too dark. And then now we can go back to adding more highlights. Kind of got lost in that leg a little bit, huh? Alright. Maybe we'll start introducing let's see, where were we with the cools before? A little bit more blue into it. Really start to cool them up. Or should I say cool them down, I guess. So again, going back to the water grain, working that in. Doing lines like this almost gives it a gouache type of feel. Blend this one down here a little bit more. That's looking pretty nice. Alright, let's go ahead and carry on to these other parts up here, his chest, his torso, I guess we should say. Oops. I wish on Painter they have different shortcuts for your different pens. So, as it is, all these different ones, everything in my Painter brushes palette, it's all the B brush. Everything's a brush as far as Painter is concerned. I don't know, maybe I just haven't used Painter enough. Maybe there is a way to set that all up. I'm just not aware of it. It's definitely a possibility. Alright, let's go in with our blender. Kind of introducing some of these darker areas back in, these drop shadows and stuff. So now we'll go for our highlights. And blend them in. Get a little bit lighter on that side. Alright, I think that works. It has utility built. It's usually like a yellow. We'll start up with a kind of a golden color here. Again, we're just kind of loosely sketching in the color first. Oops. Let me get a little bit closer in there. There we go. Right here, we're not going to get too fussy, you know, because the color kind of bled out a little bit. That's fine. It's nice and dark, so we don't want too bright of a yellow. So I think I'll just leave it like this and just add the couple highlights on his belt. That'll give us enough indication that this is built. Our minds have been tricked enough over the years to know, like, oh, okay, there's something yellow around his Batman's waist. It's going to be his utility belt, so we don't have to spend too much time on it. That sells it enough right there. Let's see, his skin tones. Go to instead of going up here, like, you know, just, again, started off with a grayish, more dull version of it. First off, keeping the reds and the shadows, just kind of sketching it in. I'll go in and blend it. It's getting closer. I'll get a better look. It's gonna be not to come in here and again drop some other shadows on it. Repaint those in. We'll have a highlight here. Let's blend that. Now, let's get this red. I have a drop shadow from his lips right here, and then from his nose, and then from his cowl. Do that. Let's give it a little blend. Maybe hit up this highlight again. Let's get that. Oh, we don't want too white. Maybe we'll do a little bit orangish and get his eyeball. Now it looks like that's up on top. And we'll do it there. Maybe we'll set up another layer on top, so just in case we need to adjust the blues. So that pops out nicely. Maybe we'll do another highlight on top of the blues we were doing before. Brighten it up a little bit. More blue to it. Bigger brush, make it a little easier. We'll blend it in a little bit. Again, leaving some of the strokes. Is it if I'd say that gives it a natural feel, but that's exactly what it does, and I really like, yeah, it's kind of the point of why you use Painter over Photoshop, because you want that natural feel. I think with that, I kind of need to go over the gray a little bit more as well. Kind of even out the lightness of it. So we'll go back to our blue area. And just kind of scratching it in and then blending, a little bit more scratching in, blending. I tell you, after working in this kind of style as well, yeah, after I'm done, my arm is just tired. Yeah, it's making these real short movements. So let's, oops, let me a little bit more in this drop shadow here, a little bit there, here, a little bit. Oops. Blend that. Hope I'm not making this video too long and it's somewhat entertaining for you guys. Alright, so I think that looks pretty good. Next up, let me get a new layer. We'll do the city, and I'm just gonna follow the Mateo's clues, and he just has a bunch of lines. So I'm just gonna kind of scribble a bunch of lines in here as well, just kind of you know, indicating, oh, here's some lights turned on, here's some turned off, you know, whatever. Maybe all this is lit up. Darken some of these. I think mistakes a lot of beginning artists make is when doing buildings, you got to remember how the floors of a building work. You know, they go across, so you're not going to have, you know, say like, oh, these three lights, you know, perfectly on. It's a little bit harder to believe. You know, like, oh, okay, so there's one person on each floor in that exact same area of the floor that's on. You know, they're all working late at the same time. So yeah, if you're gonna light up, you're gonna do horizontal instead of vertical. You're gonna light up the floors. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Zoom out a little bit. I'm digging that. I want to kind of introduce a little bit of this color up here, though. So I'm digging that. And we'll go in and blend it, of course. But then that's kind of looking like the cape. I'll just keep it like that. That's fine. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this. And it should be saved now. On my desktop, let's open this back up in Photoshop now. I'll take a look at it. So yeah, I think it looks pretty good. Any adjustments I want to make? I kind of dig it like that. And I'll just darken it a little bit, just a tad. Lighten him up a little bit here. Let's see about the face. I'm just adding a little bit more contrast to it, that's all. Man, I think that looks pretty good. Lighten these a little bit. Yeah, I don't want to go too crazy on the background because our main focus is going to be on, supposed to be on Batman here. Let's have a layer on top. Let's try lighten. Get a soft airbrush. Let's go ahead and glow up some of these guys. And just going with the flow, you know, keeping it consistent with the art style. You know, art style is moving very quickly, nice and fluid. So you kind of want to match that with your the way you're coloring as well. It's like better on screen. Need more red in it, lighter. Let's try something different. I'm going to hold down my Alt Option key on top of everything. Go down to Merge Visible. That's going to give me a stamp layer on top of everything. So yeah, let me show you. If I put all these guys in a group, I can turn them off. So here's everything up on one layer. It's a quick way to help flatten all your layers at once, but you get to keep other layers just in case. But before I do that, let me think ahead a little bit here. So I want Mateo's signature to pop out some. And I think what we'll do, does that stand out too much? Maybe we'll grab some of this light blue. I think that'll look good. And then just lighten it up just a tad more than that. Yeah, that works. Alright, so now let me go back and hold my Alt Option key, go to my triangle here, Merge Visible, and I'll show you why in a second. So I'm going to save this again, and I have everything flattened on one layer, because I'm going to take it back into Painter. So let's see, open with Painter 12. Let me drag it over here to my Cintiq so we can see it. Tab, so we can see all the palettes. All right, so what we're going to use is the glow tool, the glow brush. Let's see if we can find it. I know I had it saved somewhere. There we go, glow. And the way the glow brush works, it's kind of tricky. So you have to have it on a flattened layer for it to work, for it to look nice. And it's kind of the opposite of doing your glows in Photoshop. Where in Photoshop you want to have like a nice light color, but that just really goes to white really quickly. So if you start off on a darker color, then it'll go up from that. It'll build your glow up from that dark color to a really nice, vibrant color, which really looks cool. And counting the days until they have a brush like this in Photoshop. It just adds like a really neat glow look to it. And yeah, I wish they had the color dodge in Photoshop. Just really isn't cutting it right now. So again, just keep it nice and loose. Just going over certain areas. Don't want to overdo it, because again, Batman's our main focus, not all this other stuff going on. So yeah, that looks tons better than the what we had going on before with the in Photoshop. So I'm going to save this again, close it, and open it back up in Photoshop. Hey, we're back in Photoshop. Look at that. So yeah, that looks a lot better. But now I'm kind of wondering if Batman stands out enough. So let me select what we had of him. Maybe I can do it on up here. Let's see, just pick. You know, I'm really digging that. I think that looks cool, and I think we'll. I think the reds need to be a little bit darker. Maybe we'll just go in and with our layer mask. That's why I love doing like adjustment layers. This gives you the layer mask automatically, so I could just go in and paint those parts out that I want to keep dark. In this case. Bits on the cape look dark over here. So yeah, there we go. I think that's almost going to do it. Now I just need to, let me see, trying to find a file here. So yeah, just some old Dr. Doom piece I colored. Just grab my signature off of it so we can finish this off. Bring it down here. Of course, because I'm the colorist, I'm going to put it underneath the artist's name. I'll have it smaller because, again, he did the drawing, did the most of the work on it, so he should get most of the credit. Anytime I see you know, somebody's name like this on top of the artist, automatically everybody's going to think that you drew it, you inked it, or whatever, and then this other guy did the colors. So there's always like a, I guess, an order to it. You know, where it would be the penciler, and then under that would be the inker, and then the colorist. You don't want to confuse people when they first look at it. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're signing your pieces. Let's have mine a little bit darker as well. So I think, yeah, that kind of plays off the colors up here. So I think that works really well. And yeah, let me oops. Yeah, so here's the final piece. As you can see, I'm not exactly sure on the time. Hopefully, you know, it didn't take too long this episode, but it was taking a piece from the very beginning to the end. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit more about Painter. Again, it's a fun program, and the more you extend your abilities, the more useful you are. Not only for coloring comic books, for doing any type of graphics work. It helps out a lot, and kind of rounds out your talents. Let me go ahead and save this. Yeah, that's about it. Again, thanks to everybody for subscribing. If you like what you saw in this video or any of my other videos, make sure you leave the like buttons or comments on it. It helps me out. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them on the YouTube channel or on my DeviantArt accounts, lummage.deviantart.com. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Again, over 400 subscribers already. That's awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot, and I hope to see you guys soon. And thanks for watching. All right, bye.